Hi, everyone. It's Julie Fairhurst, and I am here on Women Conversations with Women Like Me. And today I'm here with Leticia Rodriguez. Now, Leticia is a writer in our, if you can believe it, our 8th volume of Women Like Me. And it isn't even out yet. So it'll be out in the next couple of weeks. And the book is called Reclaiming Our Power. And her chapter is going to be chapter number 6. So that's how you can find her. If you decide that you'd love to get the book, and you really should buy the book because it's fabulous. And then if you would like to read her story. So welcome, Leticia. I'm so happy that you're here.
Hi, Julie. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just read a bit about Leticia and read a little bit about her bio so that you get a feel for who this very smart and intelligent young lady is. And then we're going to dive into her story and talk about all sorts of extremely interesting stuff. So I hope you watch us right through till the end. Okay, so Leticia, her chapter is chapter 6, and it's called Trauma Bond: Recovering from Abuse and Healing Through Shadow Work. So she's going to explain what shadow work is to all of us. Leticia was born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, but she currently resides in Alberta. A longtime fitness trainer and nutritionist, Leticia's dream came true when she earned her IFBB Elite Pro Card as a competitive bodybuilder in the figure/body fitness category in 2019. Her passions include weightlifting, yoga, camping, snorkeling, animals, writing, and photography. When she's not working, you can find her at the gym training for her next competition, relaxing with friends, or hiking in nature with her adorable American Bulldog, Ghost. I love that name, Ghost. Becoming a published author in the Women Like Me series has been a blessing for Leticia. Writing is something she's always wanted to do. It's come natural to her. And she graduated from school in Ontario with honors and being awarded the Ontario Scholar designation for her high achievements in English and creative writing. And when you read her story, she does very well. So you'll be able to see that. Bouncing between multiple areas of interest, from geology to attaining a diploma in graphic design, Leticia discovered her love of fitness in her late 20s. She was published in the Oxygen Women's Fitness magazine in 2007 after her second competition. Now in her mid-40s, she plans to expand upon her expertise in physical fitness by venturing into the fields of life and spiritual coaching. Leticia intensely believes that optimal wellness includes physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual components. She is currently pursuing additional certification in sports nutrition, Reiki, counseling, and recently became trained in numerology. Ooh, you've got a lot of stuff going on. Leticia hopes that her ongoing story of going within to heal from abuse, toxic relationships, and depression will help other young adults who may be experiencing similar struggles. Creating and publishing her own books and self-improvement courses are high on her list for future goals. And her favorite phrase to live by is, and I love this one, you are always one decision away from a completely different life. And that was said by Mel Robbins. Oh my goodness. We are going to have a conversation here. Holy cow. Okay. So, my dear, why did you want to write in the Women Like Me book series? Let's start with that.
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always loved writing. That's always been kind of the way that I express myself, because it's a lot easier for me to really think about what I want to say and put my thoughts clear into words on paper. And it's always something that I've always wanted to do. But a dear friend of mine, Anna, who actually wrote for the volume 6 of the Women Like Me series, I've known her for many years now, and she had written her story. And when she came out with that, I just thought, wow, that's so amazing. And we met up and kind of talked about it. I didn't even know the background of her story. But she mentioned to me, she's like, you should write, you should tell like your story as well. And I thought, you know what, like this could be a good opportunity, and it's therapeutic as well for me. But I also hope that, someone out there would resonate with something in my story and take away something from it that might help them.
I'm sure you as obviously you are a very good writer, but you tell your story well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite the story, quite the story. So let's dive into that story. So you were a single lady and you were doing some online dating.
Yeah, I was in a long-term relationship in my late 20s that ended. And I had about an 11-year stint where I was single, and I was, I'd had little mini relationships along the way. But back when I was in my late 20s, the online dating, it was just kind of starting back then. It wasn't really a big thing. It grew a lot more when I was in my 30s, and even more so now. It's pretty much the most common way to meet people now. It's
Mhm.
changed a lot. So yeah, there was about an 11-year stint there, and then I met someone who I was in a relationship with for 2 years, which is part of the main
Right.
part of my story. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And when people read your story, I mean, the way you describe him, I mean, it makes me want to swoon, right? And I didn't even see him or meet him, but he sounded like quite the catch.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something with, online dating. You have a profile online, you present the best side of yourself, and it's very easy to post. We post our best pictures, and we create an image of ourselves. And sometimes, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that do that it's like a false persona that they're projecting, and you
Yeah.
meet them and they're not the person that you thought that they were, unfortunately. Not everybody, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And that happened to you. And then you went through 2 years of trauma and drama. And so, do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened to you?
Yeah, so um I met this individual. I actually didn't even meet him on an online dating site per se. It was actually another social media site. Um, and me being in the fitness world as a competitor, and I used to work in gyms for a long time. I use Instagram for my fitness page. I have clients and other competitors and stuff like that. And in where I live, there's a fitness community. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are gym goers and have similar um, interests in that. So I was scrolling online, as I do sometimes, sitting on the couch, and I was just kind of going through my social media feed, and this individual popped up, and um, I can't explain it, but there was just something that drew me to him. Like, he was physically the type of person that I would be attracted to, or my type. Um, I thought he was very attractive. He was very fit, muscular. He just had that look about him, and I was very intrigued. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know how old he was. I didn't even know where he lived or if he was even single. But most women will go and snoop through the page and see what they can find out.
Yeah.
Um, the entire time he was actually living minutes from me, just down the road, surprisingly. But we started following each other. And it was just one of those things where, we'd like each other's posts, and then it progressed to the sending the little fire emojis and the little heart eyes, and, kind of low key flirting back and forth. And I thought, I want to meet this guy. And we started chatting at some point, and we're trying to meet up. And we finally met up, and things progressed really quickly. We were in a relationship. And yeah, as you mentioned, I was with them for 2 years, and it was probably the most profound experience of my life to date. Like it was it was very toxic, very abusive,
Yeah.
um, painful. Yeah, so quite the
And so
experience.
why do you think that you lasted that long? Like, was he that way immediately, or was it something that snuck up on you?
You know what? It was something that I noticed the first time I met him. I've always been a highly intuitive person. Not everyone will maybe believe this, but I've always had an uncanny knack for reading people's energy. I can just sense things, and it's not something that I'm specifically looking for
Yeah.
intentionally. I just pick up on stuff, but I tend to ignore my intuition, because you want to give someone the benefit of the doubt, and um, yeah, no, I saw the red flags right away. I instantly, the first time he got out of his vehicle when he came over to my house, I immediately had that panic, that alarm bell going off, and was just very disappointed. But I, you start to kind of make excuses for it in your head, and that's what I did. And um, I asked myself the same question for such a long time after. And a lot of people ask me that, why did you stay with him after all the things he did? Like, why didn't you leave the first time? And the thing is, I did actually leave the first time I found out what was going on. But um, it's it's hard to say. Like, if you had told me 2 years prior that I was going to be with somebody who would repeatedly cheat on me, lie to me, humiliate me, physically, mentally, and emotionally abuse me, I would have laughed at you, because that's not something I ever would have tolerated. But
Mm.
even the strongest person, you can say that, but it's very different once you're in the situation. And when you're with someone who is a manipulator, who is very skilled at it, it's easy to get sucked in. And then you have emotions
Yeah.
and feelings in the way too, and it complicates everything.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah.
basically what happened. And
Wow.
I honestly thought that I saw something in him. I recognized, just from my own childhood and my own past traumas, I've dealt with depression in the past, and I've dealt with, mental struggles. And I saw that in him, and I felt sorry for him. And I thought, and on one hand, I thought maybe I can help him. Like, if he
Right.
actually cares about me the way he says he does, and we care about each other, because it felt like we had an amazing connection despite everything that was happening. I thought, maybe it would be enough, and that I could help him and get through it, because sometimes people like that just need someone to help them.
Hmm.
But I ended up, you know, hurting myself in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was when I read it in your story that you basically, I guess, broke up with him, and he was having a bit of a meltdown, so he ended up in the hospital, and then he gave them your name as the emergency contact.
Yeah, so that was the first time I found out he wasn't the person I thought he was. And he had um, this was about 2.5 months into our relationship. There were signs along the way. I had a feeling something was going on, but I tried to ignore it. And one night, he did have substance abuse issues. He was drinking quite a bit, was often intoxicated. And the one night, he was particularly intoxicated, and there was an incident, and he was unconscious in my bed, passed out sleeping, and I saw an opportunity. There was just something that told me to look in his phone. And I'm not the type of woman to go into my partner's phone normally, but there was just something telling me that if I did, I would find something. And I got into his phone, and yeah, he was literally talking to just it's mind blowing, the amount of women and a couple of men that he was talking to. And it was shocking. And the conversations were highly inappropriate. Some of them, it looked like he was meeting up with them Others, it looked like it was just some kind of online kind of relationship. Very questionable. It was like different personality in every conversation. It was just, it was insane. And I knew then, I'm like, well, you know, I can't be with someone like this. Like, it's over. And I kicked him out the next morning, but he went home and immediately started drinking. And he was talking to me, like blowing up my phone while he was also talking to some of the others. And he started implying that he didn't want to live anymore. Um, and I knew that it was just a ploy to kind of deflect from what he
Yeah.
had just seen, because
Mhm.
I had outed him to all of these people. I actually
Yeah.
texted all of them and told them what was going on. So he was trying to, you know, gain some sympathy. But when you are implying, you know, that you may commit suicide or that you don't want to live, that's a serious thing. And one of the other girls called the police, and he was picked up and he was brought to the hospital overnight. And yeah, I was the one who was closest to him at that point. We were pretty much living together.
Yeah.
You know, so he refused. His family has no idea of the things that he's done to this day, and not to the extent of it anyways. And he obviously didn't want to use them as an
No.
emergency contact, so he put my name.
Yeah.
And that's how I got sucked in to
So
the,
how did you eventually get out of it? Like 2 years is a long time. So what happened at the end to just,
well, it came to a climax, but I think everybody has a point where they've had enough, and you can't deny anymore that
right?
this is not right and that you don't deserve to be treated a certain way. For me, yeah, unfortunately, it was two years of it, and there was a lot that happened in between, like over and over. I was catching him in different things, but each time it got a little bit better. And you know, I gave him some ultimatums. You know, and I was trying to help him. I was trying to take away all the temptations. So you know, he changed his number. I had him delete his social media. I had him go see therapists. We went to counseling. But there were numerous incidents. I couldn't even fit all of them into my chapter in the book.
Wow.
The crazy part. But yeah, eventually things were actually really good for quite a while. I was very close with his family. We got a dog together. Everything seemed like we were on the right path finally. And then there's one incident where a girlfriend of mine actually caught him online, and he denied it. And I didn't have the proof. I knew that it was him, but I just couldn't 100% prove it. So it was just one of those things where, again, I let it go. And
Mhm.
then there was another incident. And then the final straw was actually catching him at another female's house. I actually, we were in couples counseling at that point, and he would sit there in couples counseling and cry his eyes out and insist that I was the most important thing in his life and that he didn't want to lose me or our dog. And he was still seeing someone else and others on the side.
Wow.
Yeah, so I bought a GPS tracker online, a little tiny thing, has an app that shows you where they are. And he had a DUI at the time, so he was driving my vehicle, which I know is not, I should never have allowed that, but he was driving my vehicle. And one day I was working and he was off work, and I put it into my vehicle that morning. It was actually the day after his birthday. I had taken him out with some mutual friends the night before, had a elaborate, expensive dinner, and I caught him the next day. Within hours of putting this tracker in my car, he was found him at another woman's house.
Wow. I mean, I just, wow, that must have been so hard mentally
Yeah,
on you.
for
Yeah.
many reasons. Yeah, because
Yes.
I was mad at myself. I was mad at him. I was hurt. I was humiliated. Like, it's just so many emotions that go through you, especially after everything we'd been through and how far it had gone. Like, we were in couples counseling together. We were planning a future together. We were planning on selling our houses the following year and trying for a baby. We had plans to go on trips. Like I was very close to his parents, and we had mutual friends. Like we were involved. So,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that point to find out he's still doing these things and it's been fake this entire time is just, it's mind blowing.
Well, somebody with obvious problems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Which is sad.
It is.
It's certainly not excusing, but it is sad when somebody has that. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in his skin.
Yeah, that's
Like,
the thing. That's where forgiveness is a hard thing, and I went through therapy myself, and I can't forgive him for the things that he did because those things are just inexcusable. But
mhm.
I've learned to forgive him for who he is, because to live like that, like he's never really going to experience, real love and empathy. He's not capable of it.
No, no, no.
And I learned a lot about his issues and what he actually does have. And it is very highly probable, and I fully believe that he does have a personality disorder.
Mhm.
It's diagnosable for sure. All the markers are there, and just understanding that was what helped me to get
Yes.
it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your healing, because you did shadow work. So tell us a little bit about how you healed through all of that. What you did afterwards.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone goes through stages, I think, when they're healing from grief or heartbreak or trauma. And that was totally me. I went through the part where I was angry, and then the part where I was numb, and then and I also kind of threw myself into the research on personality disorders and relationships, and just different mental illnesses and things like that. But um, I also knew like I had to talk to somebody as well, and so I took advantage of that, and
Mhm.
um, I learned to look at not just who he was and what he did, but I had to look at myself as well. And why did I fall prey to that? Why did I go back so many times? And so, yeah, shadow work is basically just looking inward. And for me, looking back on my childhood and just certain things that have happened in my life that have shaped me, I now understand more about myself, and I can be more forgiving with myself. And now I know, we're all projecting from a place of our own perception. We've all had something in our lives that has molded us somehow, whether good or bad or both. And some were much worse than others, of course, but we're all projecting from something, and we need to do our own shadow work, go within, and you can also call it your inner child, like,
Yeah.
and do that healing and face those things and understand and recognize that this is why I do these things. This is why I gravitate to these people, or this is, why I react in these situations. So
So
that's what I.
is there any tools that are used, or is it when you're doing shadow work? Like, is it like did the counselor that you were seeing, was there journaling, or like how do you do shadow work? Like how do you look inside?
There's different ways, and honestly, it comes down to like what resonates best with you, like what helps you. So
Mm.
that could be anything. It could be journaling is definitely an effective thing, because sometimes putting your thoughts on paper helps you kind of process through them and learn more about yourself that way. Meditation is another technique. That's something that I'm trying to learn. It's for some people, they're probably like, oh, rolling their eyes, but it's actually a very beneficial thing to do. It's to still your mind. I know for myself, I'm an overthinker. I'm always over analyzing and processing and replaying things in my head. So trying to center yourself
Yeah.
and ground yourself and still those thoughts and just find that place of inner peace and alignment can be very beneficial. But anything that helps you come back to yourself and find the things that make you happy, and heal you. And that can be a combination of things too. For me, fitness is a big part of my life, and that's an outlet for me. Um, Talking to friends, talking to therapists, spending time with your pets or loved ones. Like there's so many different ways.
Just don't sit in front of the TV and sit there and scroll on social media. Yeah. Because I think that's a detachment, I think. And I guess shadow work is more of an attachment to yourself.
Yeah, it's an inner healing. It's a way to go inside and look at yourself. What has shaped you? What has made you the way that you are?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, unfortunately, are not willing to do that, or don't want to admit or face their traumas, or just and it's not doesn't have to be a trauma, but just something that's happened to them, or the way they are. They don't want to admit that. They don't want to look at that. It's too easy to blame other people and react than to look at themselves first.
Well, I think we tend to, if it happens, like if we have a turbulent childhood and we have trauma in that childhood, we tend to just stuff it down if nobody is willing to listen or validate us. And so then we grow up and we just continue to stuff things down and stuff and stuff and stuff. And then I believe that eventually you need to deal with it, or you end up in big trouble.
Yeah, it comes up. It comes up. You can ignore it, but
yeah, I don't think, life doesn't just let us keep stuffing it down there. Eventually you can't do that anymore. And all the things you've said are just so helpful. And I think the one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I really believe in intuition, and I think women, for whatever reason, I think we have more intuition than men. The way we're built, I guess. Why do you think it's hard sometimes? Like when you were in the beginning, like you're saying, like within your first few minutes, your intuition was on red alert, but you didn't listen to it. Like do you think now that you've done the shadow work that if you got that red alert, you would listen now? Or
definitely more than I ever have, for sure. Now I recognize the little signs a lot faster, and I actually, instead of just kind of glazing over them, I actually look at them a little closer. Not to say that I look at everyone like that and judge and analyze them, because you can't do that either. But I do, but I know it's going to be an ongoing process, because the thing is you can be aware, but there's always something like emotions, feelings, they get in the way, and sometimes it clouds your judgment, for sure. So it's an ongoing practice.
So I'd like to ask you also, like, how do you feel self-worth came into all of that? Because if I'm thinking that you must not have felt very worthy, like deep down, in order for that to continue and continue. I don't know. I've had my share of, not great relationships, but never, to that extent. So I don't know. What do you think about self-worth?
It's another hard thing, and that's part of the shadow work too, because you do have to find a way to love yourself first and be comfortable in your own skin and who you are. And you have to be confident in that and honor that. And that's an ongoing, I think it's a lifelong thing. And for some, it comes more easily to them, and others not so much. But with me, like, I've always believed, like, I'm a good person. I'm honest. I'm not out there being unfaithful to people. I have good intentions. I think I'm, a smart individual. I'm hardworking. Like, I know what I have to offer. Um, but sometimes it feels like it's not enough, I think.
Right.
And for me too, I had to look at my childhood and my past. And for me, it's I've learned, and now I know I have codependency issues. And I have, I'm a people pleaser. I'm empathetic. I want to help and fix people. And sometimes I sacrifice and I put those people first instead of myself. And that's not healthy either. It's not a bad thing, but it's not always the healthiest thing. And for me, in my situation with him, I just I realized I just wanted a partner. Like I just, people we're not meant to be alone. Some people are happy on their own, and that's fine. But for the most part, like we want that connection with
Yeah.
somebody. And he came along, and despite all the things he was doing behind my back, we did have an amazing relationship. We did everything together. We spent every day together. We did camping, and we went, on trips, and I was at family functions, and we like
Mm-hmm.
had an amazing connection. And I felt it was like he gave me all the things that I had been looking for that no one else had. Um,
Yeah.
and I had to look at that, and I wasn't willing to walk away so easily because of that. And
Mm.
because I just wanted to give him that chance, that benefit of the doubt, maybe he'll change.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does come back to self-worth, because at some point I had to choose myself and my own self-respect
Mm-hmm.
and walk away from the situation.
Give us, just before we close, can you give the viewers out there or people that are listening, what kind of tips can you give them if they're single or and they're online dating, like doing the I mean, I've been with someone for quite a number of years now, so I'm not out there doing that, so I'm completely clueless. I couldn't give anybody any help about that. But can you give a few little tips for us just before we go? Just anything at all you think might be helpful?
I think, you have to be prepared. It's crazy out there. It's very different nowadays than it was, when you grew up and when I grew up. It's changed so much. Um, you have to take it with things with a grain of salt, and just kind of be aware, learn to recognize some of the signs. It doesn't mean that you have to distrust every single person, but unfortunately, with online dating, there's a lot of people who are um, there's a lot of people being unfaithful. There's a lot of people looking to manipulate. Some just want attention. And then there's others who I think are coming from a place of good intentions, but then they have their own unhealed business that they're not looking at. And then you get into something with them, and then they kind of panic when things become serious. So, and
Mm,
then there are the good ones. There, you just have to be kind of patient and open-minded, and just be selective. Give people a chance, but you got to look at those red flags, and you have to, keep them in the back of your mind and just be observant. I
mhm.
think detachment is something that I'm learning a lot about too, and it doesn't mean that you have to be cold or that you're not caring or you don't have to have feelings, because that's just natural. But I think it's, if it's too good to be true, probably is. But again, follow your heart, but be smart about it too, and try to stay, emotions are going to get involved if you start to catch feelings for somebody, but you have to kind of take a step back sometimes and really look at the situation. And,
Mm.
hopefully that person is on your level. You just have to, it's like a sea of people out there, and it's like you're trying to find that one gem at the bottom, and you have to claw your way through, and there's going to be a lot of weeding things out.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, you just have to be smart and kind of go in knowing your worth, knowing what you have to offer, and look for somebody who matches that energy. Someone who's consistent, someone who is making the same effort as you. invest everything into somebody's looks or how they're presenting themselves, and
Yeah.
just know that, that first 3 to 6 months, we all put on a little bit of a show because you're making an effort and you're trying. It's like that honeymoon stage. You're vetting the other person out, and eventually, the real side starts to come out. So you just have to be smart about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for writing in the book to start with. And thank you so much for doing this. It's so helpful. So helpful what you've just, told us. And for having the bravery and the courage to tell your story. Like, I know as people listen to us talking here today, you just touched on, an ounce of your story. They need
Yeah.
to read your story to really understand exactly what you went through, because it was pretty nasty stuff for quite a while. But I think a lot of women get shy, or they feel like, I don't want anybody to know what happened to me. And I get that, but I just really appreciate you for having the courage to be able to stand up and say, I'm going to tell the world, because the world's watching. I'm going to tell the world what happened to me, and hopefully, you can all learn from what I learned and not have to go through that experience. And not everybody can do that, hon. It takes bravery. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for being here. So is there anything final you want to say to anyone before we close?
Yeah, just based on just to piggyback off what you just said, like, it was very hard for me to tell my story. And there was a lot of even more sensitive stuff that I didn't even write about, that I can't, I haven't even told a lot of people. But yeah, it is very vulnerable, and it is kind of embarrassing, and it is hard, because I know that there are people who will make certain judgments or whatever, or say, like, just let it go. But you know what? It is important to tell your story and speak your truth, because you know who you are, you know what happened. Doesn't matter what other people think. If my story can help even one person recognize that they're in a toxic relationship or a situation, or they're just being mistreated, or anything, like any part of my story that they can resonate with, then I hope it helps them
Yeah.
to face that and heal, and hopefully get out of it if they're in a bad spot.
I know that your story will. I know. We have a lot of books and a lot of stories, and I get a lot of emails and private messages from people, and I know what is going to help and connect with people, and certainly your story is going to do that. Well, thank you again, Leticia, for being so brave and being able to stand up and do this. And thank all of you for being here once again for Conversations with Women Like Me. And her book is going to be out soon, Reclaiming Our Power, Women Like Me. And Leticia, is in chapter 6. If I think it was chapter 6, I got to double check now. You are in chapter 6. Yes, I'm right. Okay, so so if anybody wants to read that, we'd appreciate you buying the book, and let us know what you think. So thanks. Oh, and by the way, in the comments section, or not the comments, but in the description, I'm going to have some her bio. Leticia's bio is going to be there, and there's going to be some links to be able to reach out to her if you want to speak with her about anything, or if you want to bounce something past her. She's very open to meeting people and helping if she can. So those will all be in the description there. So don't hesitate to go down and have a look at that. So thank you again for being here, Leticia, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.